What if the one thing that powers your entire world, the light in your room, the device you are watching this video on, was once seen as a terrifying, deadly invasion? When electricity first arrived, people did not just fear it, they rioted. They smashed poles, they attacked electricians, they believed it was a government spy tool, a weapon, a poison in the air. This is the untold story of the war on electricity, a 150-year-old panic that holds a stunning secret, a blueprint for understanding our own fears about artificial intelligence, 5G, electric cars, neural implants, and the future happening right now. And it all began with one man's body burning alive in a cage of lightning for all to see. In the closing decades of the 19th century, a silent invasion began on the streets of America. It moved not on foot, not with soldiers, but on poles and rooftops. An army of wires, thin and metallic, began to creep across the urban skyline. They armed with an invisible force, electricity, a power that no one could see, could smell, or truly understand. It was a ghost in the machine of everyday life, and it was moving in. People would look up and feel a new kind of unease. They whispered that these wires were watching, that they were listening, that they could kill without warning, striking from the air itself. Some were convinced it was a government plot, a web of surveillance. Others believed ruthless corporations were experimenting on the members of the public. But this wasn't a protest against taxes or corruption or war. This was a grassroots rebellion against the future itself. This was the war on electricity. Today, light is an afterthought, a reflex, a flick of a switch in the dark. We live completely in it, our cities never sleeping, our lives tied to a grid we barely notice. But when electricity first arrived, it didn't feel like a blessing. It felt like a trespasser, a dangerous, unpredictable force being invited into the very hearts of our home. So, why did a technology that will ultimately define the entire modern world face riots, political firestorm, violent protests, and conspiracy theories that seized the public imagination? And what does this 150-year-old panic, this primal scream against the new, reveal about the silent fears we still carry in our pockets today? The fears about AI rewriting our reality, about 5G pulsing invisibly around us, about vaccines and genetic engineering, and the very nature of what it means to be human in a world constantly being reinvented. The war on electricity wasn't random chaos. It was a fire built on three distinct kinds of fuel: the very real and present danger, the ruthless propaganda of powerful men, and the wild, uncontrollable spark of conspiracy theories that spread like a psychic wildfire. Picture New York City in the 1880s. The air itself was changing. It was no longer just the smell of horse manure and coal smoke. Now, there was the sharp scent of ozone and the constant low hum of energy. Wires were everywhere. A tangled metallic jungle draped across rooftops, slung over bustling streets, hanging dangerously above crowded sidewalks. This was the wild west of infrastructure. No rules, no safety laws, no government oversight. Companies engaged in a frantic race, each fighting for territory, slinging up more wires, faster and higher, with no coordination. And the wires, pushed beyond their limits, began to fight back. People would hear a sinister crackle overhead. Sparks would rain down like hellish confetti on horses and carriages, sending them running in terror. Everyone knew someone, a neighbor, a friend, who had been shocked, burned, or knocked senseless by a stray current. But the moment that shattered the public's fragile tolerance, the incident that broke the nation's nerve, came on Autumn Day, October 11, 1889. A lineman named John Feeks was doing a routine maintenance, high on a pole in the heart of downtown Manhattan. Below him, the city burst with life. Then, in a horrifying instant, his neck accidentally brushed against a powerful, uninsulated AC wire. There was a flash of blinding blue-white light, a scream that was cut short. And John Feeks was not just electrocuted, he was entombed in a cage of hissing electricity, his body burning alive, suspended high above the streets for all to see. Children pointed and wept. Office workers crowded at windows, their faces pale with horror. Newspapers the next day didn't just report the news, they seared it into the public consciousness, with headlines screaming of death from the sky. In the days that followed, people would cross the street to avoid walking under wires. Mothers pulled their children indoors, as if the wires themselves were predatory. The public didn't just fear electricity anymore, they believed it was a conscious hunter, and they were its prey. But the panic wasn't only born from tragic accidents, it was being intentionally, ruthlessly, stoked by one of the most powerful and celebrated men in America, Thomas Edison. Yes, the wizard of the Menlo Park himself was waging a corporate war worth millions. Edison had bet his entire empire on direct current, or DC, but his rival, George Westinghouse, championed alternating current, or AC, a technology that was cheaper, stronger, and could travel much further. If AC won, Thomas Edison stood to lose everything. To understand this war, you need to understand the battlefield. The fight was between two types of current. Think of electricity like water flowing through a pipe. Direct current, or DC, championed by Edison, is like a river flowing steadily in one direction. It is simple and safe at low voltages, but it has a huge disadvantage. It can't travel far without losing power, requiring a costly power station every square mile. Alternating current, or AC, backed by George Westinghouse, is like the tide, rapidly pushing and pulling back and forth. This back and forth motion allows it to be stepped up to incredibly high voltages for efficient, long-distance travels, and then stepped down to save levels for home use. It was the clearly superior technology, and Edison knew it. So, Edison declared total war, but his battlefield wasn't the laboratory, it was the newspaper front pages and the public mind. He hired themes to stage public demonstrations where they would electrocute animals, stray dogs, farm calves, and even a circus elephant named Topsy, using Westinghouse AC generators. He wanted to brand the very term alternating current as synonymous with death. His most cynical move, he secretly helped fund and develop the world's first electric chair, and he insisted it had to run on AC system. He wanted every execution, every headline about a state-sanctioned death to whisper his rival's name. This wasn't science, this was psychological warfare, a calculated media campaign built on fear, shock, and morbid spectacle, all designed to make the public flinch at the very technology that will power their future. And where real fear mixes with manufactured propaganda, conspiracy theories bloom in the dark. Newspapers, hungry for sales, printed wild claims that will be laughable today if they were not so widely believed. They claimed electric wires were stealing the weather, causing unseasonable storms, that electric current were draining the vital life force from plants, causing them to dry up, that the wires were pulling moisture from the very atmosphere, creating droughts. Some even swore that electricity could jump from the wire to a human soul at any moment. In the churches, fiery preachers declared the hanging wires as a tool of the devil, a web to snatch sinners. Others warned it was a backbone of a government mind control system. The paranoia reached a fever pitch. After John Feeks' very public death, mobs armed with axes and sheer rage took to the streets, tearing down poles and smashing transformers. Repairmen had to be escorted by police, not as city workers, but as soldiers entering a hostile war zone. By the late 1880s, the very future of electricity hung in the balance. threatened not by its failures, but by the terror it inspired. But history rarely ends in fear. A breaking point is often also a turning point. And in this war of currents and conscience, something and someone emerged to change the emotional tide forever. The public outrage following the horror of John Feeks' death finally forced the government to intervene. The era of the Wild West was over. Heated debates erupted in city halls from New York to Chicago. Newspaper editorials thundered, demanding actions. Politicians, sensing the public mood, promised new laws and order. And so, the great untangling began. Cities from coast to coast started the massive undertaking of tearing down the dangerous overhead mess. The chaotic spiderweb of wires began to vanish, buried underground, out of sight and out of mind. For the first time, safety standards were written, electricians were trained and licensed. The chaos was slowly, methodically transformed into order. And then there was the showman. While Edison used electricity to terrify public, a brilliant immigrant named Nikola Tesla arrived to mesmerize them. Tesla was the antithesis of Edison's grim theatrics. He would step onto a stage, a figure of strange elegance, surrounded by metallic rods and mysterious coils. In a hushed auditorium, he would throw a switch, and then the impossible. He would allow hundreds of thousands of volts of electricity to cascade over his body, to dance like captured lightning across his fingertips. Brilliant acts of purple-white light will wrap around him, not as a weapon, but as a crown. He held balls of fire in his hands. He illuminated light bulbs without wires, as if by magic. Tesla did more than just promote AC. He performed alchemy on public emotion. He transformed electricity from a lacking killer in the sky into a beautiful journey of light. He didn't ask people to stop being afraid. He gave them something better to feel, wonder. He made the future feel not like a threat, but like a promise. And with time, the fear faded, the protest silenced, the conspiracy theorists found new ghosts to chase. Electricity became safe, reliable, invisible, the silent, beating heart of modern civilization, something we only notice in its absence, when the world suddenly goes dark and silent. Today, the idea of protesting against electricity feels ridiculous, almost childish. But we are not so different from those Victorians gazing fearfully at the wires. Every single generation replays this same psychological drama. Our ancestors feared the humming wires. Their children fear the invisible radio waves flowing through their walls. The next generation eyed the microwave with deep suspicion, fearing it would poison their food. And today, the script is the same. Only the characters have changed. The same fear now animates debates over 5G towers, the black box of artificial intelligence, the mRNA in vaccines, the ethics of self-driving cars, and the dystopian potential of neural implants. The pattern is a cultural constant. New technology arrives, sudden and disruptive. People panic, fearing the loss of their health, their privacy, their very humanity. Corporations and interest groups manipulate that panic. Conspiracy theories multiply in the fertile soil of uncertainty. And eventually, almost inevitably, the technology is tested, understood, regulated, and woven into the fabrics of normal life. Just as the chaotic wires were eventually buried, rendering electricity safe and invisible, today's technology has evolved in the same spirit of refinement. We no longer bury just wires. We have wireless signals that safely crisscross our bodies, powering our connected world. Electricity has become the very oxygen of modern life, so fundamental that its absence plunges us into darkness and silence, halting our economy, our healthcare, and our communication. And now, a new technological evolution stands at a similar crossroad, the electric vehicle. Countries like Norway, where over 80% of new cars sold are electric, and China, the world's largest electric vehicle market, have fully embraced this shift. The readiness isn't just about infrastructure, it is about safety. The statistics are compelling. With a lower center of gravity, electric vehicles are significantly less likely to roll over, and their advanced driver assistance system are poised to drastically reduce human error, which accounts for over 90% of all accidents. The question isn't if we are ready, but if we will repeat the cycle of fear or learn from history and welcome a safer, cleaner future. So, where does this 150-year-old panic leave us? The war on electricity is more than a forgotten chapter. It is a masterclass in human psychology, and if you are paying attention, it offers us a blueprint for navigating our own technological revolutions. First, the story teaches us that fear is not ignorance. The Victorians were not foolish. They were responding to a genuine, visible threat. Wires were killing people. Their fear was a rational reaction to the unknown. Today, when we feel anxiety about AI, we should pause and ask, what is the real concern beneath this fear? Is it a loss of control? A threat to our livelihood? Acknowledging that fear is a natural starting point, not a character flaw, is the first step towards a smarter conversation. Second, we saw that the story told about technology is as powerful as the technology itself. Edison sold a story of death. Tesla sold a story of magic and wonder. The better story won. The lesson for us: we must be critical of the narratives we are fed. Is the panic about a new technology based on facts, or is it being weaponized by bad actors, by competitors, politicians, or media personalities for their own gain? We must learn to separate the signal from the noise. And perhaps most importantly, the chaos didn't end with protest, it ended with order. The unregulated Wild West of wires caused the crisis. The solution wasn't to abandon electricity, but to bury the wires, create safety standards, and build trust. This is the ultimate lesson. Safety and regulations are not the enemies of progress. They are the foundation upon which widespread public trust is built. For every AI, every neural implant, every new frontier, we must demand the modern equivalent of burying the wires. Smart, transparent safeguards that allow us to benefit from the technology without living in fear of it. Every leap into the future begins with a tremor of fear. Every invention we now take for granted was once seen as a threat. So the real enduring question for us today is not why our ancestors feared something as essential as electricity, but what are we going to do with our own fears? Will we let them paralyze us, or will we use them as a catalyst to ask better questions, to demand smarter safeguards, and to shape a future that is not only more advanced, but also more humane? Because the path to progress has never been a straight, well-lit highway. It has always been lit by the very sparks of controversy we once tried so hard to extinguish. Our job is not to fear the sparks, but to learn how to build the lamp.